Hello, my name is Janet Dalton, and I am the Director of Education at Manhattan Edit Workshop. Welcome to our first online Tech Talk. Here, we will be inviting film and television professionals to talk about all kinds of film-related topics and to help us to stay up to date with this ever-changing technology. Today's Tech Talk, Remote Post Workflow, could not be more relevant. And I'm so excited to introduce you to AJA's Video's Product Marketing Manager, Andy Bellamy. Now, Andy will walk us through some tips and tricks to help organize your remote workflow. So excited for this. Thank you, Andy, for joining us. I'll let you take it from here.
Thank you so much. Let me just get my slides going in the background. Okay, so we're going to be going through a look at how we can try and use new technology from AJA and existing technology from AJA to really affect change. So obviously we're now living in this COVID world. So the way that we were producing content before and the way that we were working before has had to change significantly, and we need to create a safer environment on set, and then also for further down the chain as well, so for the post-production work as well. But we're really starting the topic today with a look at how do we use technology to create a safer environment on set. So one of the ways I thought we could look at this first of all was to try and look at what did a modern production set look like before we had the pandemic. So what were we doing before if we were working in ultra high definition? So the example I've got on the screen now is really showing you a 4K or Ultra HD 12G SDI production, and really in the two main groups that you would have associated with this production. So we've got a production set on the right there. So basically that's going to consist of your camera and your audio for the main part. We're taking the signals from each of those devices and we're using an embedding device to combine the video and the audio together. And then, of course, we then want to share that video. So on set, there are a number of people that have to see that video constantly. And one of those people is the director. And we've got the director's monitor here on this diagram as well as a production monitor. So both these monitors, you can imagine would be people literally crowded around some of these monitors, working very, very closely together. So this would be a very small part of the set. We'd also have connected to this part of the set, we would have an option to route our signals. So we've got a router in the middle there, which is the Kumo 1616. And what that allows you to do is to send video to where you want to route it to. So in this case, as we said, we've got the director's monitor and a production monitor. We're also connected to the DIT cart as well. And we have a 4K backup taking place there. That's with a device called a Keypro Ultra 12G. And we've also got a proxy backup as well. So essentially, we're taking care of all the concerns of the set. So we have a high quality video signal and audio, which is being embedded and then shared to the correct people on set who really need to see that feedback. And we're also making backups as well as proxies as well, because we don't know who may need to use the content that we've got. They may not need the full quality. We also need to provide backups as well. So from the standpoint of what the set used to look like, that's kind of what it was like. You could swap out Ultra HD for HD and it would still be the same. We would have the same considerations that we need to consider in terms of our layout. So what we need to do is to try and now create distance between all of these elements on set to create this safer environment. Lots of regulations were released for film and television production, which vary via the state that you're in or where you are in the world, but it's generally at least 6 feet required between all people. So we're definitely in the same mode on set as we find ourselves in the rest of the world. So we're still creating this distance. So one of the ways we can do that is to actually change how we connect everything on the set. So at the moment, we're looking at the diagram and it's 12G SDI. So that's a single cable, which is able to take our ultra high definition video and audio when combined and then be distributed as is needed but there's limits. So if we want to create space on set, there are limits with 12G SDI cable that won't let us do everything that we want to do. So we have to look for alternate technologies. And one way that we can do that is to introduce fiber optical technology. And fiber optics is a very, very straightforward, easy to manage and easy to roll out solution to some of our problems. Fiber optical lengths can actually take a video signal and they can run for many, many miles. It's that good a system. So we can actually create immense distance on set that we couldn't do perhaps as well with 12G SDI. So let's take a look at what that set might look like if we're using mini converters that are fiber optical to change our video signals so that we can create more distance between the different disciplines on set. So we have our production set, just as before. So we have the production sound and the production camera on the right-hand side of the diagram. But if you look at the 12G AMA, that's the small device that both the production camera and the production sound are being embedded into, that's connected to the FIDO. So this is actually a fiber connection here straight out of this device. So we're able to connect between the two devices and create a huge distance. We quote in the diagram they're up to 7,000 meters, which is probably more than you might need in order to create distance. But the point being is, by introducing that FIDO device that lets us take a video signal and turn it into fiber optics. Fiber optics are also used further afield in telecommunications and also in other video workflows. So they're used in the real world to extend signals over vast distances between facilities, and we're using them in exactly the same kind of liberating way here. One of the other things which is very important to bear in mind with fiber optical is there's virtually zero latency. It's absolutely lightning fast in terms of transmitting that video. So as you can see in our diagram, if you look on the left-hand side, we've got our director's monitor. This time we've actually got a director of photography monitor and also a focus puller monitor. So we're able to give these individual people, they can be spaced out, but they can have a high quality video feed specific to them, passed to them with no latency, really, or almost zero latency. So they're able to make decisions on set and work with the content in a way which is very safe, without any compromise over how they go about their job. We see a focus puller as somebody that's working on a camera system that's assisting with focus all the time shooting is taking place. So one of the things that's important for them is that they can actually feel the adjustments that that person is making with a remote control device to the focus of the camera. They are seeing the feedback of what they're actually affecting in real time or virtually real time. And that's the case here. So 4K fiber optical devices like the FIDO range from AJA really go a long way to giving us the space that we need on set to spread people out a little bit further just to create that safety. Now, throughout the chat, throughout the actual conversation, what I'll be doing as well is if we've got any conversations that are coming in, we can jump off a moment and answer any questions. So if you've got any questions as I'm going through, please put them in the chat and I'll be happy to get to them. Some of the things you might ask, we might have coming up as well, and I'll point that out as well. But please feel free to ask us any questions as I go through. So just back to this diagram, we've got the 4K DIT cart in the middle of the diagram. We've got our smaller stations here for our monitors, and we've got our production set. So everybody can be compartmentalized so that the worker in the 4K DIT cart area isn't having to come into close contact with anybody in any of the other groups. They can be kept very separate and very safe by using fiber optical. And like I said, the main thing to consider with fiber optics is it's all advantage all the way. It's really just giving you distance, and it's not at any compromise to that quality or synchronization as well, which is another major hurdle that we have to consider when we're in video production, is keeping everything in sync at every point. And in this way as well, we're making sure that everybody receives a sync video signal. So that's also very important. But let's have a look a little bit at the detail in the diagram as well. We've actually got, in this diagram, we can see we've got the DIT cart. So I just wanted to have a little look at how we might want to apply another area here. So what we've got Coming from our video village on set, we've got the 12G SDI fiber feed. That's in the top right of our diagram. And that's running directly into our backup recorder. So we're able to take a fiber signal and run it directly into this Keypro Ultra 12G device, which is one of AJ's recording devices. So this will give you 4K recording. You don't have to be near the camera system. You can be, as we said before, quite some distance away with a dedicated fiber cable running directly to the recording device itself. That recording device there, the Keypro Ultra 12G, gives you a dedicated down conversion, so you can create your HD proxy backups on set in H.264 as well. So lots of flexibility. And in the video backup area, we're also driving a 12G SDI monitor and a HDI monitor. So we can see what we're looking at, but it's coming from the video village. So our feeds are all present and correct to the person that's working in the video backup area. So again, we're working really smart. We're working in conjunction with other areas of the set, but we're maintaining distance. Now, one thing that's fairly prevalent in any film set or television production environment is radio communication. Most sets offer a system whereby there's talk back and feedback between different elements, and this would be no different. At the very easiest, this would be perhaps just group chat, people chatting between the areas that they're in and making sure everybody's in sync with what the needs are on set. Otherwise, radio communication, like walkie-talkies and headsets, would also work as they normally would do. We would just be further apart. So using these AGA devices on a modern set, we're able to create much more safer distances. We can create an ability for people to work really well with the types of equipment that they're used to working with. There's no real change for them there, but they're just benefiting from this much, much safer environment. This is a little look up close as well at the director of photography monitor and the director's monitor. Now, one thing we can also do on set that we can operate remotely, that can be a consideration of the video village, and they don't have to have anyone go over to the director's monitor or anyone over to the director of photography's monitor. Those areas can be kept safe and separate by using devices like the FS-HDR from AJA. We're able to actually provide inline look transform. So a look is a lookup table. It's a way of taking the values in an image and transposing those values to create a look that we want to deliver our video in. So on set, the director and the director of photography, it's often very, very important for them to actually be able to see the video as it will end up being when it gets to the post-production phase. So they're able to use a look on set by using a couple of different devices from us. So we're able to use the FS-HDR, gives the real-time translation of that look. And also the small device, if you look at the top one, we have the Hi5 12G. That small device is also able to insert HDR metadata as well. So we've got two different ways that we can achieve a look in camera for the look rather on the monitor, post camera, for the director and for the director of photography, without any compromise to anyone's safety either. So these devices can be safely in our video village, and they can be remote controlled. So we've got lots of options to give people exactly what they need, not only what they're used to, but maybe even a little bit more. What we're seeing here is that as technology is moving quicker, we're also keeping lockstep with the methods of feeding that technology and the cabling. So in terms of looking at on set and how we could make that safer, that's kind of wrapped up neatly how we're able to put distance between individual stations on set now. So we can create a safer environment by distancing between the video village, between the production environment, between the director, producers, and anybody else on set. People will still be fed the important information that they need for their visual feedback. So that's assured. What we also want to have a look at, though, is how do we connect the set remotely? So if we have persons, producers, anyone that can't be on set for any of our social distancing reasons or otherwise, but they may need to see an image from the set. They want to see live video, they want to see what's going on. How can we connect to the set remotely? So one way of, sorry, let me go back. So how do we do that? So one way that we can do that is we can use a device called a Bridge Live. Now, Bridge Live is a multi-channel Ultra HD device created by AJA and Comprimato, which gives you the option to take a video feed into it, and then it will provide you with an encode of H.264, H.265. Basically, it's going to create the video from the set it can take, and it can turn into an easily streamed version of that, which you can then take out the set via a secure private line. So what this really involves is, if we go back to our video village before, what we've got there is that the video village has access to a secure private line. So the secure private line is really just an easy way of adding extra communication to the set. It's normally Ethernet connectivity. And the Bridge Live will connect directly to that output. So what you can do is then take the video village feed, so the on-set live video can actually be taken via the Bridge Live, very, very low latency, and streamed out to our CDN. So you can see in the diagram, the CDN is the cloud with the diagram. So that's our content distribution network. That could be Twitch, it could be an aggregation service like Wowzer. You've got a number of different ways in which you can then share the information here to our producers. And in our diagram, we've made it really, really easy. We've actually got 3 producers. We're going to assume these are 3 producers in 3 separate locations and not together, but they're all operating smart TVs. Now, smart TVs, you've probably got one in your house now. And if you haven't, the next one you buy will probably be a smart TV without even thinking about it. So smart TV is one which has a built-in web browser. So it's able to receive a stream, decode that stream, and present it as video on the monitor. So these smart TVs have basically an access to a URL from the Bridge Live via the CDN, so that we can see the content on those televisions. It really is very, very straightforward. It's secure because we're using a secure private line. We can then take other steps with logins for our producers via the CDN as well. So we aren't really in a situation where we have, we're not in a situation whereby they can't see that video. It's just very, very straightforward to access on-set video remotely from a remote viewing station. There'll be a small amount of latency between the two, but if we have to have people off-site that have to access on-site content, this is a really strong way of doing it. So you've had a question come in from Anthony. Thanks very much, Anthony, for your question. Now you're asking, is everything available to purchase online via AJA, or are there resellers to go to? A little bit of both. We do offer smaller products on our website. There's a few converters you can buy direct from aja.com. But the rest of this equipment that we're talking about here comes from the AJA resellers network. And if you were to go over to aja.com and hit the resellers button at the bottom of the page, or where to buy, you'll be able to find out who might be your local reseller. There we have basically cross-country support. There's nowhere that you wouldn't be covered, and we offer excellent support for the devices. So if you're trying to find any information, you're not finding what you need, just hit the info at AJA email address, and we can help you out with that. So just going back to the producers environment here. So as I say, we've got these 3 producers receiving this content. It's really straightforward, and it's really only leveraging existing infrastructure, which is very important. We're adding something like a Bridge Live, which is doing the big heavy lifting of real-time encoding for Ultra HD, but the delivery aspect of the producers is really, really straightforward in terms of what they have to do. It's all about getting people to keep working rather than having to work against the technology, and this is another good example of it. Now, the next stage from having sort of half and half, so this is where we're connecting producers with the production environment remotely. Another way that we can look at this is we can also create safer post-production environments within facilities. Traditionally, edit suites and edit environments, you know, we've definitely been in scenarios there where we would be editing at a desk. You might be sat with 1, 2, 3 producers in a small room, having discussions about the content as you're editing, having real-time feedback, and going through the process of agreeing on what's good for the project. Now that's just, again, really not possible anymore. And again, We may find ourselves in a situation in a facility where we have lots of people that are producing content. We might need to actually make it even safer for them. There might not be this scenario where we can have the producers and the editors in the same room. So we want to kind of look at what are ways that we can create distance internally, but maybe in a different way to fiber optical technology. And one of the ways in which we can affect change in terms of creating a safer production environment is to take a look at how we use Ethernet in a facility. So Ethernet inside of a large facility may well be of the quality needed to provide internet protocol video, so IP video, so real-time video being able to be distributed from your edit suite to another place in the same building by using the IP infrastructure. So in terms of looking at how we will connect that, the IOIP device that we can see here is your IO device. So basically that's going to handle the SDI output or your video output from your nonlinear editing suite, whether that's Adobe, whether that's Apple, or whether that's Avid. We're able to take that content, that output, and send it via the Ethernet and then decode that elsewhere to another video device. In this case, we've got an NLE output there that we've carried through to another SDI port in another room. So what this means is it's a really easy way of leveraging existing infrastructure to move video around. It's very, very easy to actually manage and administrate that video as well. So one of the nice things that we've got with IOIP is you can send one video to many places without loss. So you've got lots of options. If you're in a situation where multiple people needed to see the output from that timeline, which is really what you're doing here, you can scrub directly from that timeline and it's going to get through to the remote viewers. We're using the device, you see this IPR10G2 SDI, which is a wonderfully long name for a very elegant device, but it's literally Ethernet in, video one side, and then SDI out the other side. It's a device that requires very little setup and administration once it's running. So from the point of view of redistribution internally, it's really straightforward to try and look at how IP-based solutions might help you to do that. So we had a question from Erin. Thanks for your question, Erin. And she wanted to know, does Bridge Live work the other way, sharing video edit with directors and producers? It's bi-directional, yeah. So you can actually go both ways and it will do that simultaneously as well. So part of the makeup of the device, as I say, is bi-directional. You can actually use two devices as well. So there may be a situation where you might want to use Bridge Live with another Bridge Live direct connected. On our website, on aja.com, there's a whole page devoted to Bridge Live and a real deep dive into some of the workflows there. So I definitely recommend having a look at that page. We talk a lot there about the bidirectional nature of the device as well. So it's not just a one-way device. It is going to do both directions. And like I say, it's H.264, H.265, MPEG as well. So lots of options. And also you can add JPEG 2000 if that was something that you needed. So for very, very high-end, highly detailed projects, JPEG 2000 really offers a fantastic compression over file size ratio. So that's something that we'd recommend. But yeah, I would definitely recommend you have a look at the page on the AJ website, Erin. That will definitely give you a few more diagrams about the bi-directional nature of it. We also have another question that's coming from Chris. Now, Chris is asking about secure encryption with AJ products. I'm going to come to that very shortly for you, Chris. So if you hang on, I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the encryption in some of the devices as well in the next couple of diagrams. So we'll cover that in a bit more detail for you as well. So what about remote workflows? So really, truly taking somebody working remotely, they're in an edit suite, and they're sharing remote viewing again. So it's the same kind of significant, we're in this scenario where we can't have people in the same room, they can't be together. How do we achieve that? So this is interesting. This is showing you a real-time remote editorial for HD, and this is based around a smaller device. So the Bridge Live device is a streaming sort of really a transcoding gateway. It's for multiple video streams going bi-directional, whereas Hilo It's just going to take one video input and stream that in one direction. So super straightforward. But just imagine a nonlinear edit suite with a high definition output. So whatever IO you're using, and again, it could be Avid, could be Apple, could be Adobe, that SDI video output or HDMI video output is then fed in to the Helo, and then the Helo via Ethernet will share that to the CDN. So again, we're back to the content distribution network. So we can see our timeline output over a streaming server to the remote viewing station. And again, this could be a producer, it could be a colorist, it could be a director, it could be anybody who you need to get approval from that timeline run. You need some real-time feedback. We're connecting the two places here with internet audio as well. So this is a really good way of, as we said before, we're providing ways of connecting video. We often will use a secondary form of communication to connect audio, but only for communication. The CDN is taking the audio from the timeline and passing that neatly to the NLE there as well. Now, again, what we would recommend here, obviously working with content, which is something that you don't want to let out until it's ready. Working with a CDN will be able to give you some secure encryption as well. So end-to-end in terms of how you might share the stream code and how you share with your end user, that's going to give you more security. And it's the same as we mentioned way back at the beginning when we were talking about leased private lines. Again, that's very secure. It's point to point. So at no point are you sharing or offering out that signal to anybody who could access it. It's nicely controlled. Both the Helo device and the Bridge Live device do support secure encryption as well. So that's another layer of certification that we're able to add in there as well. And again, if you want to go to aj.com and look at either the Helo page or the Bridge Live page in the streaming section, both those sections really get stuck into how we can help with providing security for our video signals while we're working remotely. But what if we're working with 4K or Ultra HD? So this is another example where we're providing a remote edit suite. So this could be the room in your house you're in now, wherever your edit suite is. We're offering a system whereby you're able to take your timeline. So in this case, we're using a TTAP Pro. So the TTAP Pro is a 4K device, 12G SDI, and that your NLE timeline. So again, doesn't matter whether it's Adobe, whether it's Apple, or whether it's Avid, we're able to pass out our video output from that timeline, and using the Bridge Live, we're able to take that 4K or Ultra HD stream and stream that to a smart TV as well via the CDN. And again, here we have internet audio. Now, what this means is there should be no compromise over what we're seeing in our NLE and then how that's being observed by the producer in the remote viewing area. They're able to give feedback as if they're in the same room. There should be very little latency between the engaging of the playhead in the NLE suite and then the playback in the remote viewing area as well. So from the standpoint of really liberating how you work, I mean, there are obviously, we've moved a long way in terms of what's available to us to work with laptops, to work with desktop devices, with Thunderbolt 3 storage. You know, I could go on. There are many, many different ways now that we can build a nonlinear edit suite that can function perfectly well with 4K 60p without skipping a beat. So all we're doing here is we're connecting your edit suite directly to a producer wherever they are and wherever they want to be. It's a really flexible way of working. And as we move more towards, you know, we are getting more restrictions are being lifted as we've moved along. People are getting vaccinated. The world's changing a bit. What we're seeing, and this is it neatly sort of dovetails into a question from Carlos. So thank you very much, Carlos, for your question. We are getting more and more feedback. Carlos asked about if we're getting feedback from customers that remote workflows are going to become more standard in the post-COVID world. And all signs do point to yes. I have to say, our conversations with resellers, our conversations with users, people are making these systems work. And it's actually being liberating. It's not just a case of we're having to now work around the restrictions that are in place. This is actually liberating workflows in a way which we think will continue past into the post-COVID world. As I said, there are so many compelling pieces of technology which are cost effective and mean that you can produce the highest quality video in your home edit suite. So really adding on to that neat, easy to deploy ways in which we can share our workflow, our timeline, it's just tremendously liberating. You're just really learning a new skill in terms of CDNs and how we share it, but that's really it. You're getting back to how you would have worked pre-COVID, but with the liberation of, you don't have to wait for a producer. You can actually, when it's convenient between the two parties, you can connect and work. I'm also being asked as well, I've got a question from Diego that's come in, and he's asking can this workflow be used for final color correction sessions with all formats? Now, this is interesting. Now, I wanted to bring an extra slide to this, but I didn't want to go into too much detail because essentially we'd only got a certain amount of time. So what I'm not showing here is AJA produced a device called the HDR Image Analyzer 12G. And this is a device which provides critical color correction feedback in terms of nit values for HDR production. So between that and say the FS-HDR device, AJA have got devices which can be installed in a remote facility, but by using RDP, so another way of sharing the screen technology, the HDR Image Analyzer, for anyone in a color critical workflow, they can actually share the screen that the actual device is connected to in the production facility remotely in their home edit suite or home office. So yes, so there's no reason why final color corrections can't be done. Obviously, and I'm pretty sure, Diego, you know more about color correction than I do, but my understanding of it is it's about having the correct monitor. It's about making sure that you're monitoring things correctly with the correct output. We can support you in that every step of the way. And then it's just a case of how do we share that information? So yeah, I think I could definitely say we definitely provide equipment which is useful in an environment where you want to see that color correction. And if you were to head over to aja.com, the HDR Image Analyzer page does go into detail about how we can use remote desktop protocols to use a keyboard and a mouse and a monitor in our home and access the production facilities equipment as well. So it's really a case that AJA offers many different ways that we can start to produce, start to make safer distances, both on set, the halfway house between set and production, and then moving into post-production. All that we're seeing now is with developing technology is the ability to work remotely is going to continue to be really, really important as we move forwards. And I know it's very important to AJA. We've got a really good page if you want to catch up with any of the concepts and discussions or look at these diagrams in closer detail and some more as well. Please head over to aja.com, and aja.com we've got a solutions page for remote workflows. There's a number of pages for lots of different distinctions of categories. There's things like high dynamic range workflows, IP workflows, fiber optical workflows as well. They're all on their own. But the remote solutions page really covers some of the ground that we've covered today. There's a lot more that you can look at as well in terms of the diagrams too. So I definitely recommend anyone that's had a question, certainly follow up either info@aj.com. I'm happy to take any questions offline as well. But that sort of concludes the workflow step throughs that we've had today. So we've seen really a neat way in which we can extend our safety on set, a way that we can extend our access to the set, to those offsite, and then how we can then continue that through into our offsite workers as well and our remote workers. And just to touch on that point again from Carlos earlier, we really don't see these workflows going away. The time has shown and technology has shown that we can work the way we used to, but we can work remotely without any compromise. And I think that's really, really exciting. And I look forward to hopefully talking to you again soon about more remote workflows from AJA.
Thank you so much, Andy. That was really such great information. And thank you at home for tuning in. Please subscribe to our YouTube page, Facebook page, or newsletter to find out more about these great events coming up. Have a great night. Thank you again, Andy.